Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Time is 6:30 on June 15th, 2021. This regular meeting of Mayor and Council is now called to order. Please stand for Pledge of Allegiance, followed by an invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Powell, will you lead us in an invocation, please?
Let us pray. Father, we are grateful for a beautiful day and a great place to come meet. Lord, help us hear each other, not just from the sound system, but from the words that are said in sincerity tonight. Help us to hear each other and understand each other's positions, and bless us to have ears that hear, Lord. Lord, we're grateful for the things that are taken up. This is an important meeting of the city. It'll decide the careful use of the citizens' resources. So give the council wisdom in both what they approve as a rate for that, and also for the important things that they are putting before the citizens to do in this city over the next year. And help that to be fruitful, Lord, and bless it with your favor, what happens with the budget. Help us to be mindful of those important decisions that come up in this meeting, Lord, and it is many. And give our council wisdom and bless them because it'll affect, again, how this city works and how our citizens thrive. Lord, we thank you for the people who work at our city. Bless them and give them your favor. And Lord, we ask that you'd bless this place. It's a good home for everyone, Lord, and we just ask that you would make it a better place as a result of this meeting, that you would be in our presence and bless this time together. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Powell. I do have a few announcements to make. Some meetings. The 2021 property tax mill rate public hearing is this afternoon. The 2021-22 budget public hearing also this afternoon. Municipal court is tomorrow at 1 p.m. in the community room. Planning Commission meeting is June 22nd at 6 p.m. at the Social Circle Theater. The Tree Board meeting, June 24th, 6 p.m. in the community room. Our council work session, July 1st, 6:30 p.m. at the theater. Independence Day holiday is July 5th for the city employees. Social Circle Development Authority meeting, July 8th, 8:30 a.m. at City Hall. Main Street Commission meeting, July 13th, 8 a.m. at Church at the Grove. The Georgia Initiative for Community Housing meeting, July 13th, 10 a.m. That's a Zoom meeting. The Historic Preservation meeting, July 13th, 2021, 6 p.m. at the community room. And our next council meeting is scheduled for July 20th at 6:30 p.m. at the Social Circle Theater. We'll now move on to presentations. First one being employee introduction and recognition.
All right, I'd like to ask Chief Brinkley to introduce one of our new police officers.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to introduce Officer Tim Kutch, which I pronounced it right. Tim come to us by way of Rockdale with 12 years of experience. Very solid officer. Got a lot of experience, a lot of skill, a lot of life experience, a lot of experience doing this job. So, Tim would like to say something.
Like Chief said, my name is Tim Kutch. I've been with Rockdale for 12 years and excited to be here.
Their loss, our gain. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, next up we have the downtown rundown.
Amber McGibbon, our downtown director.
Good evening. This is Downtown Rundown for June 2021. Our summer concert series, we held the June summer concert in Friendship Park this past Friday night, and despite the rain, we had a good turnout. We had Pain and Trouble, an acoustic trio. They put on a great show. And our next concert will be July 9th from 7 to 9, featuring the Sandy Creek Band, featuring Josh Millwood. Our Independence Day celebration is quickly approaching. It will be Saturday, June 26th. This year, the Independence Day celebration will be moved from Stevens Park to downtown. Because of the move downtown, the event will look a little different this year. From noon until 5, Cherokee Road will be closed to traffic for a street festival with arts, crafts, and food vendors, and a Back to Blue car show. The proceeds from the car show will be dedicated to the Police Who Care Fund, which is a charity supported by local law enforcement agencies for community benefit. We'll have several local law enforcement agencies from around the region present to show their support for the show. The car show will end and vendors will leave the area after 5 p.m. so that Cherokee Road can be reopened by 7 p.m. and visitors can come and celebrate the evening. Excuse me. Beginning at 7 p.m. in Friendship Park, we'll have a concert featuring the 80s cover band, the 88ers. The park will be clear of vendors during this time, so bring lawn chairs and blankets to enjoy the evening. We will have 4 food trucks parked in front of Friendship Park to aid our restaurants in keeping the attendees fed and refreshed. Fireworks will begin at 9:45. At the conclusion of the fireworks, the police and fire staff will safely assist the orderly flow of traffic from the event. Any questions?
Any questions for Amber? Thank you, ma'am. All right, next up we have citizens' requests. Hearing none. Council requests.
Yeah, I have a request. As a council member, I think I submitted a letter to the zoning or planning and zone, Ms. Barbara, about blocking the street, closing the street for the Juneteenth festival, which I asked for the street to be blocked between Sycamore and Adams. And I got a denial about 2 weeks ago prior to my festival. And the denial was based on the fact that we're saying that we've never blocked the street for a private event, is what the denial was. Well, after researching, we blocked the streets for Laura Oak as well as right here, the Jubilee on Halloween. So my request for the council is to consider allowing us, for safety reasons, to block that street between Sycamore and Adams. Like I said, we've blocked the streets before for safety reasons, and the only reason why we're asking for the street to be closed is for safety concern. We're having a car show right there at that particular spot. We're looking at 25 cars, and my fear is for kids walking back and forth from the cars, that something can happen to them. So I would like to amend the agenda maybe to put that on as a vote.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Jackson. Either a motion to approve the current agenda or amend the agenda as Mr. Jackson has suggested.
I would like to make a motion to amend the agenda to discuss blocking the streets between Sycamore and Adam for a car show. The car show is between 11 and 4.
And you're adding that
To new business.
New business,
Yes, sir.
item number 6.
Yes, sir.
All right. Have a motion to amend the agenda. Is there a second? Motion fails for lack of a second. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Have a motion by Councilmember Shelton. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Boyd. Any further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I don't have a request, but I do have a statement.
Adele and I attended a meeting today with our Deputy State Director, Stephen Parker, and the officials over in Newton County. And it was a great meeting. We thanked them for supporting the American Rescue Plan CARES Act, the $1.4 million that was awarded to us for water and sewage. So we had a chance to thank them for that. And also we asked for their continued support for infrastructure. So it was a great meeting. We talked about housing, jobs, mental illness, homelessness. We talked about all of those subjects and coming together trying to come up with something. And the deputy, he was very interested and he's going to try to help us whenever we need it. So it was a great meeting.
Thank you. It's Mayor Pro Tem Price. Okay, next up we have after the agenda approval, we have a series of public hearings. Just to announce the procedure for tonight's meetings, how they'll be carried out. Public hearings are typically brought to us either through a staff report or by the applicant. They will bring those items to us, make a presentation. After the presentation, I'll open the public hearing for comment. We'll provide 10 minutes for those that wish to speak in favor and 10 minutes for those that wish to be or speak opposed in opposition of. That is not 10 minutes for each person, that's 10 minutes collectively for that. So if you're here tonight to speak, if there are multiple speakers, I would request you limit your time where more people can speak, because we will hold it to the 10-minute limit. If you have just one speaker, then obviously they will have more time to do that. After the public hearing, after the comments are heard, I'll bring it back to the applicant for any response to those comments, and then we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the City Council for a vote. Okay. Our first public hearing tonight is on the 2021 property tax millage rate.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the final step in the fiscal year 21-22 budget consideration process. And on the screen, you see the series of the budget and mill rate introduction in April, followed by public hearings and work sessions. So this evening, we have a public hearing on the millage rate and on the budget, followed by the council consideration and adoption of a millage rate and a budget. The recommended millage rate for fiscal year 21-22 is 7.9 mils. That is the same millage rate as the current. I'll be happy to answer any questions council may have.
Any questions for Ms. Sherman? Hearing none, I'll open the public hearing for comment. Anybody here wishing to speak in favor, please step forward and state your name. Seeing none, anyone here wishing to speak in opposition, please step forward and state your name. Hearing and seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the council for discussion and a motion.
Seeing nobody saying anything about it, I'll make a motion to set the millage rate at 7.9 mils.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adopt the resolution for the 2021-22 mill rate at 7.9. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next public hearing is for the fiscal year 2021-22 operating budget. Ms. Sherman.
Thank you. The operating budget was put together over a series of months with consideration of funding the work plan to achieve the city's comprehensive plan vision, accomplish the council's strategic priorities for the current 2-year period, address concerns and service needs of the community and as voiced by city boards and commissions, continue infrastructure investments, and implement vehicle and equipment replacements, support local and regional industrial and economic growth in partnership with our neighbors, expand transparency of city operations and access of services to our citizens, support staff growth, training, and retention, and provide current city services effectively, efficiently, and professionally. The proposed fiscal year 21-22 budget is comprised of the general fund, water fund, gas fund, solid waste fund, confiscations, and SPLOST for a total of $18.5 million. The pie chart shows the relative size of each fund. For the general fund, it was based on no increase in the millage rate, and that is what council has adopted this evening. There has been a tax digest growth of about 6%. Two-thirds of that, more than two-thirds, is new growth. Sales tax receipts are projected to remain at current levels. The payment in lieu of taxes from our utility funds, that's water, sewer, gas, and solid waste, to the general fund supports lower millage rates, supports the millage rate that is adopted. The general fund balance, our rainy day fund, is near target levels, so there's no use of fund balance projected, but the fund is healthy. However, significant general fund capital projects that we would like to accomplish are deferred due to revenue constraints, and those are listed in the capital improvement plan, which is a portion of the budget. The general fund revenues come primarily from taxes. That's the pie chart to the left. Other financing is largely the payment in lieu of taxes from the utility funds. And then the smaller sections of the pie are intergovernmental revenues, licenses, and fines and forfeitures, and miscellaneous revenues that are a small portion. The expenses in the general fund are largely public safety. The two large sections, green and blue, on the right side of the pie chart to the right, reflect the city's investment in police and fire. And then the dark pink is highways and streets. The lighter pink is the financial administration, and then the smaller sections of the pie reflect the library, the clerk and chief executive, the governing body expenses, the transit services, cemetery, Main Street, debt service, and municipal court. So the takeaway from that is that the majority of our general fund is public safety based and public works. In the water and sewer fund, we have a stable outlook. Our revenues reflect the city's receipt of a CDBG grant, federal dollars, of $682,000 for the fiscal year 21-22, and the American Rescue Plan initial allocation to the city of $725,000 that the city council has determined to put towards our infrastructure improvements in water and sewer. There is a rate increase proposed of 2.5%, and that is to continue our investment in infrastructure improvements. This is a continuation of the rate plan that was developed 4 years ago to enable the city to borrow funds and invest approximately $2 million per year in the improvements in the water and sewer infrastructure based on the shortcomings and extension requirements identified in the master plans for those two systems. In this fund, the pie chart on the left identifies where the funds go. And so it's about a third to the water distribution, about a third, which is the green section, about a third to water treatment, That's the treatment of the drinking water before it's put into the distribution system. It's about 32%. And then a little less than a third to our wastewater collection and treatment. And then the other section, other financing uses, are what goes back to the general fund for payment in lieu of taxes. In terms of our expenses, types of expenses, the pie chart on the right shows that over half of our expenses in the water fund, this water and sewer, are going towards our capital outlay or our investment in the infrastructure improvements. That's the green on the right. Then the smaller segments of the pie are personnel services, that's the people, about 15%. Debt service for the annual $2 million loans, that's about 12%. And then we also have, following the smaller segments towards the top left of that pie chart, contractual services, materials and supplies, and other expenses. The impact of the recommended 2.5% water and sewer rate would increase the water rate from $10.25 per thousand gallons to $10.51 per thousand gallons. There is a charge per meter monthly that would go from $1.60 to $1.64. So what that means is the average water customer who in Social Circle uses 3,000 gallons per month, the bill would increase from $32.35 for water to $33.17. The sewer rate at the 2.5% increase proposed would increase from $9.70 per thousand gallons to $9.94 per thousand gallons. So for the average sewer customer using 3,000 gallons per month, the monthly bill would increase from $29.09 to $29.82. So the total water and sewer combined monthly bill at that 2.5% increase, 3,000 gallon user, would increase from $61.44 to $62.99. In the gas fund, rate changes are also recommended. Social Circle's gas rates are the lowest in the region, and our industrial gas usage is steady and increasing with expanding industry and new industry. The expenses that the gas fund goes to are, for the most part, materials. That's the green, that's more than half of the pie. So what that is the city's cost to purchase wholesale natural gas. So we purchase wholesale natural gas through the Municipal Georgia Association of Gas Providers, MGAG, and from the Transco line, and then we distribute it through our system to retail customers. So our wholesale cost of that natural gas is more than half of the total gas fund. Then a little less than a quarter is transfers to the general fund, and then the remaining portions are capital improvements at about 9%. Investment in the infrastructure is what that is. Personnel services at 6%, and then other and contractual expenses at about 6%. So the components of the gas cost, as I mentioned, are largely the wholesale cost of gas. So in our billing, we bill the three parts of the bill that the customer receives reflect the wholesale cost of gas, which varies from month to month, the customer charge per meter, which is fixed by Social Circle, and the distribution charge per MCF, which is fixed by Social Circle. So those are the two pieces that the city controls. And the gas rates are a little more complicated than water and sewer. So there are different rates for the different classifications of users based on the amount of gas usage. In general, this chart reflects the overall changes in the customer charges, that's the per month meter charge, and the distribution charges, which is the per MCF. So in total, our retail Charges are about $4 million, and the additional revenue from these rate increases is about $250,000, which still leaves Social Circle as the third lowest retail cost to customer in Georgia. In the Solid Waste Fund, Social Circle contracts our refuse and recycling collection under a multi-year contract to a private provider that was bid last year. So under that contract, we pay an annual escalation that's tied to a consumer price index marker related to refuse collection. So our contract increase for the fiscal year 21-22 for current services will be 3.5%. Therefore, there is a 3.5% rate increase recommended for the curbside refuse and recycling rate. So that monthly bill for the regular customer would increase from $15.99 to $16.55. There are also provisions for your city staff. There is one new position that is recommended in this budget, a utility locator, which enables, the city is required to mark underground utilities when work is being done by anyone within the region in which we have underground utilities, and we have to do that at our cost. With the added demand and construction going on, there are more and more of these requests for us, and we have a limited time frame to do it. So one new position is recommended that will be focused on that. If the demand reduces, that position will assist the gas department and the utility departments in their other duties. In addition, there is a reclassification of existing positions to enhance career track and service oversight. So the rights-of-way manager will supervise the streets and water distribution functions and cemetery, which makes a lot of sense because the water distribution system is within the streets, and that allows better coordination of street work and repair. In addition, there's a reclassification of fire positions to sergeant and police to corporal, one per shift each. So those are not new positions, those are just changes in the classifications of current positions. For all employees, there is a cost of living increase recommended of 2.5%, and that is based upon the cost of living, consumer price index. In addition, there is a merit increase of 2% for all employees that are eligible, which means all of your city employees that have been with the city for a year or better and have met or exceeded expectations for their review by their supervisor during that year. There are no changes in health insurance or benefits. So those are the cost of living increase and the merit increase relate to each individual employee. That's the pay plan included in the budget. Then in addition, there are market rate adjustments recommended for specific positions based on a benchmarked study of market rate. And that's to keep what we pay, or the range of what we pay for a certain job, competitive with the market. So those adjustments are based on the position, not the individual within the position. In addition, in the work sessions that have been held thus far, Council has provided direction to repurpose $30,000 in fiscal year 21-22 SPLOST transportation funds from drainage improvements to Holly Street sidewalk. So there's no net dollar impact there. It's just a change in the project priority. And also to initiate a sanitary sewer force main replacement at $90,000 to change the point of connection of our Carver pump station force main. And so that added project expense is offset by a reduction in the water contingency expense. So there's no net increase in the budget before you to accomplish that. So if the council approves the budget as recommended this evening with these two with the direction you've provided thus far on these two, they will be reflected in the adopted budget publication. I'll be happy to answer any questions council may have.
Any questions for Ms. Shermer? Hearing none, I'll open the public hearing for comment. Anyone here wishing to speak in favor, please step forward to the podium and tell us your name. Seeing none, anyone here wishing to speak in opposition of the operating budget, please step forward, give us your name. Will?
Could you flip back to that $30,000 you're going to move to the sidewalks? Repurpose $30,000 from the transportation fund to building sidewalks. You don't think that $30,000 could be better used to improve the water distribution in the city? I mean, how many people going to use that sidewalk? I mean, that's just a thought. I'm sorry I missed the meeting last week, but I got the feeling from what I've been told that that issue's dead. That y'all not going to do anything about the water pressure. It's going to cost too much money. Did I get the information correctly? Somebody's got the answer.
Well, I haven't been informed that that issue was,
Pardon me?
I said, I'm sorry, my name is Tracer Price. I'm the councilman for District 1.
Yes.
And I haven't been informed that that issue was dead. I don't know. I thought we were looking into that, but I haven't been informed
Well,
that
I think they looked into it and they said, they're going to have to raise the water tank, and that's too expensive. Now, that's all I heard.
I think what we discussed was that for you guys to get a plumber out to check your pressure release valves.
Sir, we've been doing that for 12 years.
Yeah, so that's where it came up with us. We had the engineer
Some
out.
of us have even taken the pressure valve out of the house.
Okay, so that's what we recommended, is look at your pressure release valve. So the issue's not dead because I hear you on this, and I spoke to you after the meeting about this. So the issue's not dead. I mean, I hear you on it. So we, with Jimmy, advise you guys to take a look at your pressure release valve, and I think when people get some more information on where their valves are set at, then you guys you're welcome to come back, and so we can figure out how to issue.
I can truthfully stand here in front of you today that 85% of the people that live in Town Park have had a plumber out more than one time to check pressure release valves. I can promise you that. Okay? The engineer came out and he asked, could he go in my kitchen? And he did, and I cut the water on for him. He couldn't believe it. And I'm living in a $450,000 house and I can't even draw water out of it. And I'm paying taxes on it. Now you want to increase. You taking $30,000 that could be used and putting them on sidewalks?
That money's in SPLOST.
You know, I just
No,
don't understand.
that money is in SPLOST. It's set in transportation, and sidewalks are in transportation. We can only use that money in transportation. We can't use it in water. When you voted for SPLOST, you voted for us to use that money in transportation. It only can be used in transportation. We're spending $2 million a year to try to fix y'all's problem. And we extended water lines up there. We've already come all the way up from the water tank to Heritage Park. The next phase comes all the way up to
Sir,
Brookstone.
I'm 84 years old. Am I gonna get it before I die?
Do you want me to, how much do you want us to go up on your taxes? We can go up on them high as you want us to go.
No,
But that's, I mean, we can't, where you want us to get the money from?
I just want good service, sir.
Well, we trying. I mean, we're doing everything we can.
After 15
every
years,
month.
trying is not good enough.
How many years?
For 15.
Well, I hadn't been on here 15
Well, I
years.
don't
The
care.
ones that
I
were there
have.
here
I've
before
been
me, I
living
can't
over there
speak for.
right at 15 years. And I have been coming to this council for 15 years off and on to try to get something done. And nothing is ever done. But we always got money to spend on other things, but not water. And a very simple, inexpensive fix is to run a water line from Freshway up there and buy water from Walton County and put it in Town Park, and everybody is happy.
We buy water from Walton County.
Pardon?
We buy water from Walton County right
Let's
now.
buy some more.
And the pressure, their pressure is the same pressure you have at your house where we buy it at.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that.
It is the
I know
same
too many
pressure.
people in Walton County that's got over 65 pounds of pressure.
They may have over there where they've got those high pressure pumps at, but they don't have it where we take water from Walton County.
See, this is the thing I've been hearing for 14 years, 15 years. You know, y'all all give me reasons why it can't be fixed.
Ken.
We had one man, we had an
Hold on a
engineer
minute.
that y'all had here 2 years ago. He came up with an idea and nothing ever happened. But I tell you what, we're buying it from Walton County. Because the main is right up there at the railroad track.
And we're tied to it.
Pardon?
Would you like me to summarize? So, Mr. Parker, the city's engineer, did go out to Town Park. He is with Precision Planning. They have done the city's master plan and model for our water system. They're very familiar with the water system. Subsequent to the last public hearing, he did go out to Town Park. We did provide him pressure readings up and down North Cherokee and also within Town Park. He is the one that went into your house. He did report back at the June 3rd work session. He did indicate that the pressure in that area was in the 40s, 40 psi. He did report that that is driven by the elevation, right? North Cherokee is on a ridge, and so the pressure is based on the difference in elevation between the free water surface in the tank and the elevation at the point of delivery. And so as areas are further downhill from the tank, they're going to have higher pressure. That's the static pressure. Then the other component is flow. If there are constrictions in the line, smaller lines, lines that need to be replaced, as the flow is increased, the pressure will drop as it's running because there's a constriction in the line. So what we have spent millions of dollars on is removing the constrictions in the lines so that the pressure is maintained at the highest level it can be based on the difference in elevation between the free water surface in the tanks and the location of the property. What Mr. Parker stated at the work session was that portions of Town Park, and I think your property being one of them, close to the ridge line, are closer to higher than the area surrounding. So your pressure is in the 40s. Other areas may be in the 50s or to 60, depending on the difference in elevation from where they are.
I mean that there are people in Town Park, that's got 60 pounds of pressure at the meter.
Well,
is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that there are places in Town Park that are lower, that are further from North Cherokee, that are lower, that will have higher pressure. Some of those are probably the lots that have not yet been built on, the lower sections. My point there is that, as Mr. Shelton stated, the city is connected. We do buy water from Walton County. We are connected at the railroad tracks. pressure, just like in Social Circle, the pressure in that system is driven by the elevation of the tanks. And the area of Freshway doesn't have 40 more pounds of pressure than we do within Social Circle. The tank elevation change that was referenced is there's not a lot that can be done to change 40 psi pressure without raising all of the Social Circle tanks. The other piece of information he shared is that the minimum water pressure, operating pressure, is not 40. It's 20 at the point of service. Well pressure tanks are based on, this is what Mr. Parker reported, are based on an operating pressure of 30 to 50 psi. So 40 meets standards for water pressure, and it also meets standards for the operation of typical plumbing fixtures. Now, there are places, he said, in larger systems, larger lines, depending on, again, elevation difference between their water surface and the point of delivery, where people may have 80 psi of pressure. There's actually a regulation that if it's more than 90, you have to reduce that pressure because the fixtures will break. So 80 psi of pressure may be delivered in other areas, but that's not the standard and it's not the minimum. So that's just a summary of what he provided. And the other kind of end point was that we do find, and he has found in Social Circle, that people will have pressure reducing valves because it is a requirement of the building code, but plumbers don't always open them all the way. So there may be several psi of pressure that can be increased if a homeowner has their pressure reducing valve checked to make sure it is wide open in areas where you would like to have more pressure. And that's just a Reader's Digest version of the report that was provided. And I will be happy to meet with Mr. Goodrow individually and share with him all of the graphics that Mr. Parker brought back to the work session.
If your memory slips you, because we did that about 4 years ago, right after you came to work here, up in the conference room. I think it was 5 or 6 of us from the town park, okay? Are you telling me then that there's nothing they can do, that we're just gonna live with what we got?
What is I think I heard him say a high pressure pump. Is it a pump that we can pump high, give them a lot of more water pressure?
You can.
I don't know a lot about water, so I'm just trying to figure out.
There are commercial uses that sometimes have high pressure pumps added to support sprinkler systems. I'm not aware of one being used in a residential structure.
You know, you say that the standard, I guess he's talking about Georgia, is 20 pounds. That's the bare minimum that does he know of any town in this area where that's what it is?
We don't provide 20 pounds. We provide more than 20 pounds. I'm just telling you that's the regulatory minimum.
That you could go down to 20 pounds and still be okay with the law. Mm-hmm. Does any county or city in this area have 20 pounds?
When you see them advertise on TV to boil your water or don't use the water, that's when the pressure gets below 20 pounds. That's when they get on the news and tell you don't use it. When it gets in a system below 20 pounds.
Well, you know, it seems like to me where the error was made is you should have never approved the subdivision. If you people knew that there wasn't going to have 40 pounds of pressure in these houses out there, you know, somebody missed the boat somewhere. I've lived all over this country, and I mean all over this country, And I have never in my life seen water pressure this low. I worked for a contracting company and we installed water systems all the time I was going to college. So I know when we left, there was 65 pounds of pressure at that meter before we would leave the town. Now what the law is, I don't know. But I still would like a definite, is this it? Can I go home and quit worrying about it and quit coming up here and bothering you people? Is that what y'all want me to do? Are y'all tired of hearing about it?
Mr. Goodrow, there's about a minute left for your comments, but I will say to you, no, we're not through. We're still making improvements in our system. And as stated earlier, we're working through that process. Hopefully, we can still make some changes that will improve your pressure.
Okay, all I'm gonna say is, there's a lot of boats out there in Town Park, and everybody's got to be elected. I know it don't bother you, it doesn't bother you, it bothers you, it doesn't bother you either, but it bothers him. I'm not threatening anybody. I'm just saying the people out there are tired of it. They've been depending on me for a long time because I got the biggest mouth in the neighborhood. But I can't deliver. I'm at a loss. That y'all are, you want to go up on all the expenses over here, except the taxes. But the taxes will come next year. I'm not worried about that. But the water pressure is going to stay the same. And they're about getting ready trying to build 50, 60 more houses down there now. We'll see. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Goodrow. Ms. Shermer, you have about 3 minutes left for on your time if you wish to respond to any of the comments. Okay. I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the City Council for discussion and or motion.
The two items that we talked about the other night are those separate from this? Is those other two amendments that's not in the budget that we talked about the other night?
The two amendments that I have the memo attached that if you approve the budget will be in here are the Holly Street sidewalk and the $90,000 sewer upgrade. The other item, which is the water line extension question, is under new business for you to discuss separately.
Any further discussion?
And I would like to say that $30,000 that was repurposed for Holly Street, the sidewalks, that's not only for sidewalks, it's also for drainage. I mean, this has been happening for like 30 plus years, and $30,000 is not really a whole lot for what needs to be done over there on Holly Street. So I just wanted to make that statement.
Thank you, Ms. Price. And Councilmember Shelton was correct in his statement that the SPLOST dollars can only be used for what they were voted for by the citizens. Any further discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion for this resolution.
I make a motion that we approve it.
Second.
Motion from Councilmember Price and a second from Councilmember Shelton. I don't know if it's my microphone acting up or someone else's. I'm trying not to touch it. Any further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes 3-1.
And for the record, my nay is because of the cost and the increase of the water bill and the gas that we can continue to go up on. And the people who voted for me and elected me had issues with the cost of their water bill. And I'm going to stand firm that I am not going to vote for anything that's going to increase their water bill. When they voted for me and I knocked on doors, they had that issue. And for the last 3 years, I have voted nay on the budget due to the increased cost of the water bill.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. All right. Next item is public hearing for the Jubilee Phase 2 rezone and sketch plan.
You.
Have a staff report.
Thank you, and I'll be standing in for Ms. Schlageter, who is on vacation this week. This is a rezoning and sketch plan review application for Jubilee Phase 2. It's a 58.89 acre parcel identified as SC070015A00. The applicant is Warbler Investment, LLC. The site is shown by the blue arrow on the zoning map in the dark gray planned unit development, and it's behind the existing Jubilee development. This is the aerial photograph of the parcel. It is, as I mentioned, behind Jubilee and west of West Hightower, bounded by Clover on the north. This is the concept plan and sketch plat that was submitted by the applicant. It includes single-family homes in the portion shown in yellow, 30 townhomes, and 200 apartments is the application. As I mentioned, this is a rezoning and subdivision application. The property was zoned planned unit development in 2002. The original development agreement associated with that expired in 2017. This application includes separated single-family, townhome, and multifamily components. There is no commercial, retail, mixed-use quality to the proposed development. It simply appears as an apartment complex and a separate townhouse development from the single-family. Therefore, the application is not consistent with the purpose and intent of a planned unit development. This is the comprehensive plan, and in terms of the colors, future land use map, the light yellow is the residential neighborhood character area. The purple is the urban village character area. Green is the agricultural and large lot residential. The future land use plan of the city is instructive. The surrounding area is low-density, single-family residential. Applying planned unit development or high-density residential to this property is like spot zoning. The city has zoning districts for higher density uses in the zoning ordinance, and this property is not appropriate for those higher density districts. The fire chief provided comments that the subdivision ordinance requires 3 public road access points for something with 200 or more housing units. The roadways as proposed are narrow for fire apparatus. Parking on the road is a problem in the current Jubilee and would need to be addressed in Phase 2. And fire apparatus access roads, or the roads across which fire trucks would need to get to the homes, can't be obstructed in any manner, which includes parked cars. The apartments would require a minimum road width of 26 feet based on their height. From Public Works, we had comments that the completion of the Spearman Pond pump station upgrade is pending. That is the pump station to which the flow from this would be pumped from the Jubilee pump station. The city has awarded a construction contract as of March of this year. The Jubilee wet well is not deep enough to provide sufficient operating depth to avoid backing up into the influent sewers, and a new wet well should be provided. The deeper wet well would require the use of submersible pumps. The pump station upgrade should be submitted to the city, and the water mains need to be looped within the development and to the main system in both directions. Relative to traffic, the Public Works Department provided input that 2 entrances in the same vicinity with Windsong and Clover would be close to the proposed entrance for the multifamily, and the recommendation is that this would be better to have a roundabout consolidating those access points. Jubilee Phase 1 streets are very narrow and difficult to navigate service trucks and equipment. The parking of vehicles along the roadway in Phase 1 of Jubilee makes it impossible for utility trucks and trailers to navigate. The lots in the proposed Phase 2 section containing 142 single-family lots do not have alleys in between the lots, which do exist in Phase 1, and there's only one green space shown on the proposed plan for those 142 single-family lots. The city has completed a professional housing study along with community input to give guidance on the community development plan. Orderly development in the city consistent with a plan that ensures quality housing while providing housing options. The suggested profile from this report is to have gentle density in the downtown area to support the commercial and retail businesses, so close to the core, and a second area targeted for larger scale, more intense residential would be more appropriate near the transportation corridors near I-20. This subject tract is not near either of those areas and is inconsistent with the input and professional recommendation of that housing study. In closing, the surrounding low-density residential land use districts are supported by the staff recommendation of a rezoning to R15 for this parcel. The proximity to the city's school locations is a factor that supports the lower density R15. And the city is attractive to new residents wanting to rent as well as live here. The comprehensive plan identifies that demand for rental housing creates an opportunity to reduce vacant homes and to encourage investor improvement of existing housing in Social Circle in the historic area. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on this application in May, and they recommended to rezone the parcel to R15, medium density single family. All planning commissioners voted in support. They recommended to deny the subdivision sketch plan because the submitted plat doesn't meet the R15 requirements. All voted aye. And the third motion that they made was to amend the city's comprehensive plan to remove the village character area designation from this parcel and replace it with the neighborhood character area. And all planning commissioners voted aye. I'll be happy to answer any questions council may have.
Any questions for Ms. Sherman?
You said on anything over 200, is that considered as the apartments and the townhouses considered
Dwelling units.
I'm saying, are they considered together? So that would be 3 entrances there.
Yeah, any road that's serving any complex of more than 200 dwelling units, whether they be connected, attached, or stacked, needs those 3 access points.
Anything else? I'll now ask the applicants to step forward.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. I'm Andrea Gray. I'm here with Donna Black this evening, representing Warbler Investments, and its request for approval of a revised development agreement and a revised site plan for Jubilee Phase 2. As Adele showed you, the property in question is about 58 acres, and it is a natural extension of Jubilee Phase 1, directly abutting one another. It's bordered to the east by West High Tower, and very close to another PUD zoning in the area. It is also surrounded by other residential uses. Next slide. Here is a walking map And this shows the route between Jubilee and the Willie's Mexican restaurant downtown. And I picked that location for two reasons. First is it's generally in the center of town. And second, I think the quality of life anywhere you live can be determined by how close you are to a Mexican restaurant. So I wanted to show you that it's only 0.7 miles to walk from here, where we are right now, to the center of town. Next slide. So again, our request, in our opinion, this is not in fact a rezoning, it is a request for a amended development agreement and an amended site plan to remove the commercial and office components of the original plan approved in 2002. So again, we are happy with the plan unit development zoning as is, and we're not asking for a change of that, and we're not asking for any change in the number of housing units that were approved in 2002. Next slide. So as Adele mentioned, this project has a very long history, 19-year history, in fact. It was approved, Phase 1 and Phase 2 were approved in 2002. 2004, my client started construction on Phase 1. As a part of that, they made a lot of improvements to the water and sewer infrastructure. They did put a pump station on site and are happy to make whatever upgrades are needed to accommodate this, the second phase of build out. 2008 economic crisis hit and development everywhere slowed down, including here. And ultimately, the development agreement expired before my client started construction on Phase 2. Here's the site plan that was approved in 2002. It looks interesting on paper as a spoke and wheel design, but really is not practical. Because of the spoke and wheel design, the lots were very narrow, about 30 feet wide. It also included, again, the commercial and office uses, which would drive a lot of traffic through the residential area. There's not a lot of buffers or screening in this initial design. Next slide. The uses that were approved, again, my client is not asking for any change in this. The single-family lots, 230 were approved, 88 have been built, and so our new plan proposes 142. Multifamily, 200 units, none were built, we're proposing 200 units. Townhomes, 30 were approved, and we're proposing to build out those 30 units. And then again, commercial and office, 50,000 square feet combined, we're asking to remove those components. Next slide. Here, as Adele showed you earlier, is the proposed site plan that we're asking you approve. It's a much more simplified layout, and it allows for the lots to be 50 to 60 feet wide versus the 30 feet wide. We tried to simplify the traffic patterns here. You can see the 230 single-family homes are a natural extension of the Phase 1 single-family portion with the same density and roughly the same size of lots. In this plan, we separated the multifamily and the single-family by buffers, but we're more than happy to extend the driveway to connect the two, and that would provide 4 entrances, 3 off of Alcova Drive and then 1 off of West Hightower Trail for the development as a whole. The multifamily portion has its own amenity area and its own entrance off of West Hightower Trail, where a left turn lane would also be added. This plan has a lot of green space, about 34%. It does have a town green type area in the center there. And again, no office or commercial uses. Next slide. The goal with the aesthetic of the new development would be to match the existing Phase 1 development. In my opinion, it is a beautiful neighborhood, and we want to mirror that not only in the single-family portion, but again in the multifamily portion and in the townhomes. They would be protected by a declaration of protective covenants. We're talking, high-end development here. The houses would go, in the 300s area, and the townhomes would be sold around the 200s, but a nice quality professional development. This development represents a $58 million investment in this community. That is a substantial hike in the annual tax revenues. It would be about $2.5 million per year versus the $1,300 per year that's generated on the vacant lot as is. And the plan would be that this additional tax revenue would help offset any infrastructure requirements on the city and any impacts to the schools. Homes are where jobs sleep. My very good friend who's in economic development told this to me the other day, and it made more sense to me than I can even convey. So homes are where jobs sleep. In 2002, Jubilee was a good idea. Housing market was starting to grow. It's a great location. 0.7 miles to Taco Tuesday is pretty good to me. The live, work, play community was a very popular idea there. So it was a good idea in 2002, but it's now a need in 2021. You, over the last 19 years, have built up a substantial industrial base in this community. You are attracting workforce to this community, and those jobs need a place to sleep. And Jubilee Phase 2 would provide that for additional workforce housing, professional housing. And again, it's a great location. If not here, where? Next slide. Your housing report, found it very interesting. Millennials and baby boomers are looking for higher density homes because they, like me, don't want to spend their entire Saturday cutting grass. So that definitely speaks to me. But the housing study does show there's a significant demand for this type of housing, even going as far to be quoted in the paper saying, if you're only building large single-family homes, you're missing half the market. Next slide. My client also did their own market study. You don't want to invest $58 million and not know whether or not it's going to work. And so their study mirrored the city study, showing that there's a pent-up demand for this type of housing, that the apartments would be absorbed, which means completely rented out within 3 years. Also showed that there's a steady increase in your population, which you know and see, and that you have a very strong median income. Next slide. So the differences between the zoning that the Planning Commission has recommended and what is currently in place and that we are showing in our plan is dramatic. R15 is very different in many ways, but the main way is the density that's allowed. R15 only allows 2 units per acre. Planned unit development, which is what is currently zoned and has been since 2002, allows 8 units per acre. That's a factor of 4. That reduces the units my client can build and its profitability and its ability to make a return on its investment by a factor of 4. Jubilee Phase 1, which is currently out here and beautiful, is 4.4 units per acre. At a R15 zoning, my client can't even continue on with what is already out in Jubilee Phase 1. For Jubilee Phase 2, the single-family portion is proposed at the same density, 4.4 units per acre. And then the overall, including the apartments and the townhomes, would be 6.95 units per acre. So you can see it's, sometimes we just hear R15, we think residential, but it's a real difference here. It's a factor of 4. Next slide. Water and sewer infrastructure, we also consulted the city's 2018 master plans for both. The city has ample capacity to serve Phase 2 to its completion. And again, my client is more than happy to make the minor on-site repairs to its pump station. My client conducted a very extensive traffic study of 9 intersections in the area. It's a very lengthy report. We did conduct this when school was back in session, and because school came back in session during COVID and some kids were at home and some kids were coming to school, we made adjustments in our predictions based on if everyone were at school. So we did take that into account at the time that we did this study. The study ultimately didn't recommend any improvements on Alcova Drive. It did recommend an improvement with a left turn lane on West Hightower Trail. He did not recommend a traffic circle, but certainly something we could look at the city's plans to understand the thinking behind that. Next slide. Outreach efforts, my client has reached out to the homeowners surrounding the property, including those in Jubilee Phase 1. We created a website, which we linked a Google form to, where people could submit their comments and questions. We did get some good feedback on that. We also sent letters to all the adjoining property owners. And then, of course, at the Planning Commission, we had the opportunity to hear from many of the citizens in the area and got good feedback there as well. One of the main comments that we've had is regarding the amenity area and the single-family portion. If you would, next slide. My client is more than happy to add a second amenity area in the single-family portion of Phase 2. Kind of circled the area here to the northeast side would require taking out maybe a couple lots and moving into the green space, but they'd be happy to put in a pool there to service the second phase of the single-family development. And as I mentioned before, more than happy to add connectivity between single family and multifamily, which would ultimately give the development 4 entrances. Next slide. So in summary, I'm here before you tonight requesting that you approve the revised development agreement and the site plan, in addition to the sketch plat, which is essentially the site plan. With that, I will reserve any remaining time I have, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Are there any questions for Ms. Gray?
As far as the original contract expiring, what was the reason behind that happening?
Sure, it was a mistake. It slipped through the cracks.
Okay.
Sorry, no grand explanation. It was a mistake.
And the lots that are proposed in this drawing, how wide are they?
In this drawing, 50 feet on the interior lots, and then 60 feet on the exterior lots.
Okay, thank you. And there's no alleyways, correct?
There is no alleyways on this plan.
Anything else? Ms. Gray, I show that you have 1 minute and 40 seconds to respond.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, this is a public hearing. I'll open the public hearing for comment. If there's anybody here wishing to speak in favor of this application, please come forward. Seeing none, anyone here wishing to speak in opposition of this application, please step forward.
Hello, my name is Adam Conaway, and I'm a resident of Winsong subdivision, which is part of the area to be affected by the development through the traffic circle. I would like to voice my opposition to this project on a number of terms. So firstly, we already have infrastructure strains on our current resources into town, as exampled earlier by Mr. Goodman, through water, right? So I would recommend we not continue the course of action to approve the recommendation, in that we won't be able to support that infrastructure without significant improvements to our existing infrastructure, add an increased burden to everyone on the system who would have increased rates through further development over the whole system, right? They said they were willing to bolster the system within their units to increase the flow within their space, but they have neglected to consider all the surrounding units that pay the increase in taxes for the overall system upgrades that have to be done. Secondly, she said homes are where jobs sleep. That's absolutely true. And as an economist, I can tell you that high density housing does support a lot of job growth, or support a lot of jobs, but the jobs have to be there, right? While the infrastructure, or while the industry in the surrounding area is growing at a consistent rate, I do not believe at this time it supports high density housing in the form of apartments or linked townhouses within the town structure that is traditionally single family units, right? I heard it mentioned earlier that being supported toward the I-20 corridor makes more sense, and it absolutely does. It eases the traffic burden on the social circle city proper, because the traffic is actually not hitting social circle city proper for the people going to work on the I-20 corridor, right? Third is, we've already seen the further development in Jubilee, right? Everybody knows the true first phase that was in Jubilee. They have phases, but they built out initial homes at an initial offering in Jubilee that were quite remarkable. They have a lot of character, right? The newer homes that are going up in Jubilee do not have that character, right? They're getting more standard, squarish. It seems to me, I haven't taken a tape measure out there because I'm not supposed to go on the property, right? So that they are a little bit closer together, and again, they don't have the alleyways. One thing that wasn't addressed in her statements were the concerns of both the police and fire to service the area with service vehicles and any other contractors that need to go out there, because everybody and the mother either wants AT&T and Comcast out here, and they got to get the trailer with the trencher on it out to the property, right? You get all those people parking on the street, you get a nightmare in there, and then you add a disaster to either a single or multifamily unit, and getting a fire truck out there could be problematic, right? So there was no addressing of either widening of the new phase streets to accommodate that traffic, and also on the plot when she put up the phase 2 with the second offering of the houses that was to abut the existing Jubilee subdivision, the land mass was not significantly bigger for that portion, but the housing density was. So what I was looking for that also wasn't answered was, she mentioned that the inner circle properties had a width of 50 feet and the exterior 60, right? I want to make sure I got it right. Compared to the existing, what, from phase 1, if you have the information? Same from phase 1? Okay. But without the alleyways and the walking access points?
Not the alleyways, but the sidewalks.
Right. So that's all I had at this time. Anyone else wanted to come and speak?
Thank you, Mr. Conaway. There are 5 minutes remaining for comment.
Hey, I'm Kelly Wilson. I live in the Windsong neighborhood, and my biggest thing is the traffic. Everybody keeps saying, oh, traffic's not bad, but when you're going to school, traffic is backed up real quick in the Windsong neighborhood. You're waiting, trying to turn. If we put that entranceway going towards Windsong, is going to add even more traffic. Also, our schools is already crowded as it is. Building phase 2 is going to make it even more crowded. You have to put that into play. There was a gentleman up here complaining about the water pressure. We're already having water issues. So why would we even want to build phase 2 when we cannot even provide better water issues for the people that already lives here? That's just all I got to say. I have a lot of concerns, but I'm just hoping y'all vote no on this.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition?
I'll be brief, thank you. I am a homeowner in Jubilee, Phase 1, and moved here in October. And one of the reasons I moved there was because it was this social circle. I mean, it's great.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Please state your name.
Cheryl Payton.
Thank you, Cheryl.
One of the things that I'm concerned about, and that our entire neighborhood is opposed to phase 2 as presented, mostly because it substantially changes, even though there's the same number of houses and the same number of everything else. If you look at the plat, it is designed for maximum profitability. It's designed to put cookie cutter houses one after the other, and there's not a lot of character to phase 2. In the urban code, it states that we should use, that's on our neighborhood documents and our HOA documents, is that we employ traffic calming strategies that slow traffic down, because it is small, wide, narrow streets. And the way the new phase is, there are long streets that encourage, you could have a little drag race around that little square they've got going. Okay, there's nothing to slow things down. It says we'll have substantial green spaces. The new plan only has one green space. Okay, so The other thing is that really we have 3 entrances already, but really we only have 1 practicable entrance. 2 practicable entrances because the middle one can only support vehicles, regular passenger vehicles. It can't support any construction vehicles, and we've already seen substantial damages to our curbs from construction vehicles already just in finishing out phase 1. So we don't feel like that phase 2 is consistent. I noticed that not much has been mentioned on the apartments, and before one of the justifications was that Georgia State needs student housing. We absolutely do not want student housing in the apartments behind Jubilee. As someone else stated at the previous meeting, we know what happens in college, and we don't want that happening over there. And we definitely are concerned about the apartments for sure in maintaining the values of our current homes, but also just stacking the homes in there and then having all of them come out those 2 entrances is definitely a big concern for us. But primarily, we don't want phase 2 as presented because it's cramming things in. And one thing we've learned with phase 1, the streets are not wide enough. Love it. I love it. It's a wonderful walking community, but they're not wide enough. As they are now, they're not wide enough. We have street parking issues already, and you're concerned when you drive down through there that I'm always worried when I see a vehicle on the street, a child's going to pop out from behind it. So, but we do have traffic calming strategies in place that make you have to go slow through there. Okay, so those are some very big concerns for us, and most of all, it just doesn't, it does not equal the character that is currently presented in Jubilee Phase 1. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. 30 seconds remaining if anyone thinks or wishes they can speak in that amount of time.
I'll be really quick. My name is Janet Bones, and I live on Clover Drive. I just asked this group to really consider the quality of life. Putting a large multifamily apartment complex completely surrounded by homes, single-family homes, is just not appropriate. It really is going to impact the overall value of those homes and the quality of life for all the residents in those homes. Our property values will be denigrated. There'll be traffic issues. There'll be light and noise concerns, potentially because it could increase crime, definitely increase traffic. So again, I just ask you to think about, is this our vision for Social Circle? Certainly we need multifamily apartment housing within the town, but we don't need it in the middle that is completely surrounded by single-family homes. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, Ms. Gray, I show 1 minute and 40 seconds to respond.
Thank you very much. I'll just hit some of the highlights that were addressed in the citizen comments. One, I think an important one is the police and fire concerns. As I spoke during my presentation, my client is more than happy to connect the single family and the multifamily, thereby providing 4 entrances. And talking to my client, they're more than happy to rework the site plan to widen the streets, more than happy to rework the site plan to put the alleyways back in. If that is the will of the city and the citizens, they removed them because functionality-wise and having driven through there, they thought that it would be better not to have them. But again, if that is the desire of the city council, then they are happy to amend the site plan for that. So I think the safety concerns can be easily addressed through the site plan revisions. Also wanted to touch on, I guess, some of the concerns about cars parking on the roads. That's really more of a code enforcement issue and a declaration of protective covenants enforcement issue for the HOA, as is control over the design of the new homes. That's more of an HOA control feature as far as making sure that the character of the new homes match the existing homes in the neighborhood. With that, I'm going to pause and see if Donna Black wanted to add anything to our presentation. No? Good? Okay. All right. Well then, thank you so much for your time this evening and considering our requests. Again, my client is happy to work with you on adjustments to the site plan if it is your desire to do that. We ask that you take serious consideration of this development that was that was approved originally in 2002. Again, I think then it was a good idea, but now it's needed. It's time, and if not here, then where? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gray. I'll now close the public hearing and bring it back to the council for discussion and a motion.
Adele, I think we touched on the school system for us when we was in the meetings with the superintendent, because every time we're in these meetings, we hear that the school system can't support it. So can we talk about what the superintendent said for his school system for supporting?
I don't want to speak for the school system. They did receive this application. The comments that the superintendent has made is that any significant increase in students, they need to know ahead of time to be able to plan to accommodate them through the school system. The Social Circle school student body is made up of Social Circle residents as well as students from Zone 5, which is Walton County, as well as students from Newton County. And so that total student body is evaluated in their planning process to accommodate students.
Just trying to get out there. I know they mentioned that they take in students according to the amount of students that we have in the city. So if we have more students in the city, they won't take in as much students from other counties. So our school system is healthy for supporting the students of Social Circle.
Further discussion? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the Planning Commission's recommendations.
Do those need to be split up?
State your motion, Steve, if you don't mind.
To take the Planning Commission's recommendations.
And the Planning Commission's recommendation, just to recap, is to
rezone at R15, medium density, single family, deny the subdivision sketch plat, and amend the comprehensive plan in the village charter area and the 58 acres to replace with neighborhood character area.
Okay, we'll take those one motion at a time. First motion being to rezone to R15. Is there a second for that motion?
Second. Second.
Have a motion from Councilmember Shelton, a second from Councilmember Price. Any further discussion?
Let's make sure we're doing this. So we're rezoning all of R15.
That's what the Planning Commission recommended.
Phase 2, the 50. Yes, that's correct. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. I'll now entertain a motion on the sketch plan.
I'll make the motion to deny.
We have a motion to deny the sketch plan based on the rezone to R15 is no longer appropriate. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion from Councilmember Boyd, second from Councilmember Price. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. These two motions also brought up a recommendation from the Planning Commission to amend the comprehensive plan to remove the village area. Is there a motion for that?
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Councilmember Price, second from Councilmember Shelton. Any further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, folks. This concludes the public hearing portion. I know many of you are here just for that. I'll pause for a few minutes if anyone would like to leave. Otherwise, we'll continue.
It's been a problem.
All right, let's continue. Next up, we have our financial statements.
Hello. All right, so we are 11 out of 12 months into our fiscal year. So we should be at approximately 92%. For our general fund revenues, we're at 99.54%. This time last year, we were at 88.26. Our overall operating is at 87.02, capital at 101.11, and I'm sorry, I meant to say, scratch that. Our operational is at 86.39%. This time last year, our overall was at 88.94%. For water, our revenues are at 68.07% total. Of that, 25.65 is from GFA loans. Overall, or operational revenue is at 93.35%. This time last year, we were at 54.26% overall. Our expenses are at 79.95%. Of that, 87.55% is capital and 74.25% is operational. This time last year, we were at 50.41%. Our gas revenues are at 87.38%. This time last year, 83.09%. Our total expenses at 93.47%, capital at 99.94%, and operational at 92.02%. This time last year, our overall was at 77.15%. Our solid waste revenue is at 93.6%. This time last year at 92.9%. Our expenses are at 82.09%, and this time last year we were at 82.78%. No, I'm sorry, the faster I try to go, the more tongue-tied I get. Any questions? All right, y'all have a good night.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion on the financial report.
A motion to accept.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Boyd and a second from Councilmember Jackson. Any further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, consent agenda. If you'll take a moment to review that, and I'll entertain a motion.
That is 20,000 for the drainage repairs is gonna come from?
Fund balance current year to current year budget, and we're trying to get that work done before the end of June.
Okay.
Any further discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Shelton and a second from Councilmember Price. Any further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. As far as I know, we have no old business to take on. New business. First item for discussion is the city manager appointment and approval of contract.
You waiting for a motion?
Yes, I'm
I'll
sorry.
make a motion to accept the contract as presented. Well, we've all read it.
If I could, I think the first part of that is what you're equipped to do. It's the appointment by name. And then the other part, I would ask that it be subject to completing the council's instructions on the contract.
All right, so we need to appoint him first, subject to the contract being completed.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion to appoint Eric Taylor as city manager, subject to approval of the contract. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second from Councilmember Boyd. Any further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-1. Councilmember Jackson voting not in favor. Item number 2, under new business, signature card change authorizations.
Currently, the city has 20 checking accounts with Pinnacle Bank that are signed, there's a signature available from the city manager. And this request is to authorize that Adele Sherman be removed from the signature cards and Eric Taylor be added effective July 1st.
Make a motion to approve.
I have a question, legal. In the presented contract for Eric Taylor, it says July 6th start date, and on the signature card, it says July 1st. Those are contradicting. Does that need to be changed?
And I would just ask that the approval of the motion that was just be made subject to entering into a contract. So just the same way,
Okay.
the same qualification to the motion.
Tracy, is your motion amended as such?
Yes, motion amended.
Okay, thank you. Motion from Councilmember Price and a second from Councilmember Boyd. Any further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Third item under new business, mayor and city council pay raise. You see before you a slide indicating the amounts that were advertised, I believe 3 consecutive times in the Tribune. As you look those over, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved. You hear me?
Okay.
So moved.
We have a motion from Councilmember Shelton. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second from Councilmember Boyd. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes 3-1 with Councilmember Jackson opposed. All right, the next item up for discussion, hourly fee for power use at city parks. Is there someone to present?
I was going to talk about city parks for use. Before COVID, I was actually doing Friday night lights at Burtsville. I would turn on the lights and allow at-risk kids to shoot basketball for a period of time between, I think it was 7 and 9. But I'll just decline my offer now. I mean, we'll work on another way to get lights in for them and work with them.
Okay. Would you like to table the item or withdraw it?
No, let's just withdraw it for now.
Okay. Item withdrawn. Next up, we have item number 5 is to amend the 21-22 budget for the capital improvement plan.
This item was introduced at the work session on June 3rd, and the council requested that it be put before them as a separate item. So the question is, would the council like to amend the capital improvement plan to delete the Clover Drive 3,000 linear foot water main extension and add a water main extension along Social Circle Parkway from East Hightower to Thurman Bacchus and then down Thurman Bacchus to the future site of the Church of Stanton Springs. And the basis for this request is both are on the city's long-range plan. The Clover Drive extension would primarily get halfway to the connection point with the back of the the Laurel Oaks subdivision, and that would create a water line loop. There are existing homes on Clover that are on well that have expressed interest to connect, but they are served with wells currently, and there's just a handful. On Social Circle Parkway, the land use for that area is industrial, and we do not have water in Social Circle Parkway, and we do have increasing demand for industrial sites. The proposed site of the church on Thurman Bacchus is not served with water currently. The campus that they would like to construct would have a sanctuary large enough that would require a sprinkler system, which would be extremely expensive to do with a well and a pump, and would be certainly more cost effective for them, but also in the long run more beneficial for the city to have a water user rather than a well user in that industrial planned area. So that route and that total cost would cover the extension of water main along the parkway from where it is currently at East Hightower and Social Circle Parkway south to Thurman Bacchus, and then along Thurman Bacchus to the site. It would set up a future connection back to East Hightower. This cost doesn't get all the way there, but it does get to the church site. The impact on the other projects, I've shown them on this slide. All of the other projects still get funded. They just get pushed back 1 year, basically.
Let me ask a question. We hadn't committed any money to what we're going to talk about in a little while. Why can't we use that money and not mess with any of these projects, seeing how we're getting so much pushback from the residents on the improvements to the water system?
I'm sorry.
This money is in the improvement plan that we've got published.
Right. So I'm sorry. What you were recommending using the American Rescue Plan?
No.
What
the
funds?
other thing that we're going to talk about in executive session. If we decide we want to do that,
Oh,
we can use part of that money.
yes, you could.
I think it's probably best that we just leave this alone and seeing how that we may end up with that and see how that goes. Not saying that we're not going to do it, but wait to see what happens with that, and then we'll have the money to do it plus. We might be able to go ahead and loop Clover Drive with the excess money and do, improve that project also.
Steve, I make a recommendation to table until our next council meeting. That'll give appropriate time to make that other discussion.
Yep. Or we could vote on it. We can wait till after our executive session to vote on it.
Okay. There are two options to table. You can either table to a certain date, or you can table within this session and take it up again before we
Can
close.
we table it to a time after our executive session, or if it doesn't, we don't come to an agreement then can we turn around and table it to another date?
You can do either. If you want to take it up this evening, you can lay it on the table.
Right.
And with the idea that you pick it up after your executive session.
We're gonna lay it on the table then, Dave.
Okay. We have a motion to table. Is there a second? Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. That concludes items on our agenda. We do have an executive session this evening. I need a motion to go in executive session for real estate and personnel.
So move.
Second.
A motion from Councilmember Price and a second from Councilmember Shelton. Further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.